I like to do things with other people. And my favorite question, which is definitely reflected in the design Collaborating Minds, is what can we do together that we couldn't do separately? So I think that a group of people is incredibly capable if the group of people learn to work together well. Well, I'm kind of a omnivore with respect to problems. I like all kinds. I particularly like taking ideas from one setting and applying them in another setting. So when I'm doing work with my clients, for example, I really do my best work when I have 3 or 4 projects going on at once, because I see something at one client which is perhaps completely irrelevant to the problem that I'm working on for them, but it's new to me. And then when I go to another client, I say, well, this thing that was new to me at the first client and irrelevant there is actually incredibly relevant and not known to the people at the second client. So I'm able to take an idea that I learn in one place and apply it somewhere else. And I kind of like that. Maybe it's being a bee amongst problems, taking nectar from one place and making honey out of it somewhere else. I usually like to spend a little bit of time understanding the problem, asking some questions, if I can, of the person who has the problem, and then going off and digging into it a little bit. And for me, digging in is taking advantage of all the resources that are out there in the world. It's so easy with your friend Google, to start finding out who's written about something, who's thought about it, what do they say and do, and try and go wide and see what ideas are inspired by that. And then come back together and try and say, okay, well, I know all this crap. How do I make sense out of it? Which could be as, simple as, okay, there's got to be a 4-box matrix here somewhere that divides things up into categories so that I can begin to understand the field that I'm playing on. Right? And then, I'm got a bunch of frameworks that I like to use. When a situation presents itself, I say, oh yeah, here's the place where I could usefully employ this way of thinking about something. Other people, I spend more time trying up front to dream up a lot of interesting ideas that might be relevant. I like to get to know the other people and understand something about how they tick. Then I also like to figure out what they're working on besides what we're doing, and to try and be helpful to them if I can, right? Because I'm trying to take a bigger perspective on who they are. I think a lot about one of the first teams I worked on as a consultant. The guy who was managing it was very, very interested in developing people and very skilled at it. So he would say to me more frequently than I like to remember, David, this is coaching, right? So something had not gone well, and he wanted to tell me that there was a better way of doing things. So he would preface his remark by, David, this is coaching. Help me understand what it was that would be better to do differently next time. And then close by saying, by the way, if there is a next time on this point, I will be upset and angry as I am not now. And the second was that he was very, very good at getting the most out of a situation. So that, for example, we would come out of a meeting and he would say, well, you noticed 10 minutes before the meeting I did action A. We would say, of course, we saw you do that. And he would then say, well, what were my other choices at that point? And he would say, well, I could have done B, I could have done C, I could have done D. Why don't we talk about why I chose A instead of B, C, or D? So we would get 4 meetings worth of knowledge out of 1 meeting's worth of experience. You can always get me to talk about my family and anything they're up to. So my son is a big high school baseball player, and I could talk to you about baseball and colleges and things like that forever. Or the work that my wife does and I do with her sometimes about children and their development. Or the books I'm reading or the books you're reading. Any of those would be probably good conversation topics. I have one son who's a 16-year-old junior at the moment in high school, and great kid. And my wife runs a not-for-profit organization that works with troubled children mostly and their families, as well as untroubled children to have a good start in life. And a dog who barks when I'm trying to work. The idea, the problems, and the people. And really, I would say the community that I imagine is possible to create with this. So I wrote a blog post recently about communities that spring up after disasters like the 1906 earthquake in San Francisco or 9/11 in New York. The blog post was based on a book that was written about this. And I was very, very taken with the way people form a community and get the joy out of helping each other in these circumstances. And I don't think you need to have an earthquake or a terrorist attack to make it happen. That I think you can get something like that, I hope, to emerge through good design. And that's what we're trying to do in part with Collaborating Minds. They could begin by listening when they could probably begin by asking a question, but even more important or as important as asking is then taking the time to listen to the answer and express a motive to be helpful to me if they can. And I think a really good way to start an interchange with me or me with someone else would be to say, here I'm, Tom Jones, and I just joined Collaborating Minds, and these are the things that I'm working on. But I'd like to know what you're working on or what you're interested in outside of Collaborating Minds, because in the course of doing what I do the rest of the day, I might run across something that's useful to you. And if you tell me what you're doing, then I can keep that in mind. And, if somebody makes an offer like that, I will be delighted to tell them everything I'm up to. And I'd like to know how they like to work with other people. If they know, what are the ways to get the most out of them? Or what makes it easy for them to do a good job on a problem, right? When they're working with others, and what makes it hard, and where are they trying to go as people and why, just so that I can keep it in mind. Well, I hope to prove that it works, that it's a good idea. I'm sure the underlying concepts are valid, and I am as sure that the implementation of it, as you're interviewing me, is not perfect or optimal. So I would like to see that we can get it to a state where it really works. Hoping to meet a lot of interesting people and to get to know them. I'm hoping to be able to help some of them. I'm hoping to solve some hard problems and to advance the state of the art of people working together. I saw a blog post yesterday about the Fukushima nuclear reactor and the fact that the people in Japan, as of this moment, don't really know how to fix the problem that they have on their hands. And someone wrote that, it's going to have to be like the space program with the best minds coming together, but it's going to have to be the best minds from a lot of different fields. And how do we organize something like that? And I feel like we know how to organize something like that, but nobody knows we know it yet. So I'd like to prove that we really have something that could help with big issues like that. Only two, failure and success. Um, the concern, obviously, about failure is that we don't do the things we need to do, or it doesn't come together the way we hope. Success is the other challenge. I'm worried that we'll have a lot of people who want to participate and a lot of people who want problems to be solved, and we won't really have all the resources we need to deal with things as fast as we need to. I'm looking forward to getting to know you and to working with you.